How you doing, everyone? Andy Perotti here, and welcome to another edition of Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First. Joining me now is my colleague, Rachel Plohansky. Rachel, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
So your investigation this week is really interesting. It has to do with a company that may be over-promising on its ability to keep students safe. Tell us a little bit more.
That's right. Our investigation exposed some shortcomings in a weapons detection system that's currently being used in Atlanta public schools and has just been approved in DeKalb County schools. It's called Evolve Weapons Detection System. So let's take a look and then we can talk about it after.
Sounds good.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
This past January, Atlanta Public Schools invited reporters to see its latest safety feature in action, touchless body scanners.
I'm loving the red hoodie.
You're going to have to move over there.
The district had just invested $2.6 million to install Evolve weapons detection systems in all its middle and high schools.
The future of venue security is seamless integration.
And they wanted to show them off.
They don't have to spend as much time looking through each and every bag. And then the students love it too because we move through a lot quicker.
Using artificial intelligence, Evolve screens students walking through its towers without making them unpack their book bags or remove their shoes. And students are searched only if a sensor is triggered and the light turns red.
They know that they're safe from all kinds of threats, guns and bombs and knives and bad people.
That's Evolve CEO, making the rounds to multiple networks in 2021 and 2022 to describe the new product.
But the magic is in our threat detection software that allows us to find any kind of concealed weapon.
The problem? Evolve does not detect, quote, any kind of concealed weapon. A 2021 field test in Ohio revealed safety flaws, including a micro-compact pistol not being flagged on 2 walkthroughs, and multiple knives of different types and kinds going undetected in 10 of 24 walkthroughs.
Drop the knife. Drop the knife, bro.
1 year after that field test, a knife got through an Evolve weapons detection system in Utica, New York, and a student was stabbed multiple times.
Grab that. Grab it.
Following the incident, the interim superintendent pushed the Utica Board of Education to remove the system altogether.
It's not a reliable system for detecting knives and is not adequate or practical for school use.
Atlanta News First Investigate shared these findings with APS parents and students. What would you think a weapon detection system would detect?
Guns, knives, anything that can harm students.
Who were surprised and disappointed.
Oh my gosh, that's horrible. That's not a weapon detection system, in my opinion.
It should detect everything, and if it does not, then it clearly is not a weapon detection system.
The first of its kind free-flow weapons detection system.
Evolve does not dispute the results of the 2021 field test, but its education director says the system has undergone extensive upgrades since that time. So does that mean that Evolve can now detect knives more consistently?
I don't know if I'm comfortable answering that without a technology background. Like I said, I'm really more the education person. I do know that we're constantly working to be better at detecting all types of weapons.
But is it safe to say that Evolve cannot detect any and all weapons?
I think it's safe to say that nothing is foolproof and nothing is perfect.
So, did Evolve make APS aware of the field test before the APS Board of Education approved the product? An APS spokesperson said no. And did Evolve disclose that its weapons detection system does not detect all knives? To that, APS also said no. Why wasn't that shared with APS?
Again, I wasn't involved personally in that deal. I'm not comfortable speaking to it. What I can say is that we try to be absolutely transparent with our customers.
Despite Evolve's limitations, an APS spokesperson insists that it's been, quote, pleased with the addition of the Evolve weapons detection systems, adding that it served as an aid and a deterrent in our safety protocols.
We did find it alarming.
Connor Healy works for a security and surveillance research group called IPVM, and he says Evolve's problems go beyond the field test. He points to the company recently changing its marketing language from weapons-free zones to safer zones.
I think that change in marketing tells you that there have been some misconceptions widely about what exactly this technology does, and the company was not forthcoming about them.
All in favor? 6-0. The consent agenda is approved.
In March, the DeKalb County Board of Education approved a 4-year, $8 million contract with Evolve to put the weapons detection system in all its middle and high schools. A DCSD spokesperson told Atlanta News First that the district is aware of the system's limitations, but chose Evolve, quote, because of its weapons detection abilities, overall cost effectiveness, and ease of use by school personnel with minimal training. At the end of the day, district leaders are investing this money to make schools safer. But will these high-tech efforts actually protect your children?
Does Evolve make you feel safer?
Not really.
We'll have to wait and see.
I don't exactly feel safer with it.
Joining us now back live, Rachel, that was a really compelling investigation. And the entire time I was watching it, I was thinking, this has got to be being used or some similar technology outside of schools, right?
Yeah, this technology is being used all over the place. Here in Georgia, Evolve is being used at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, right in Atlanta, and also at the Georgia Aquarium. And in doing some research, all of the major arenas and sporting venues around the country, a lot of them are using Evolve as well.
Oh, wow. And do you know whether they have been promised the same thing that the CEO on Fox News and other media outlets were saying, this sort of 100% detection?
So, I mean, it's hard to say, and I'm sure the people that were early backers probably were, since he did make those rounds on all of the networks in 2021 and 2022. Like I mentioned in the story, he has, and the company has started walking back that language, but anyone that was an early backer probably got those exact same promises.
How did you learn about this investigation? I know that talking about technology and trying to keep schools safer is a huge topic right now. It's on top of minds of parents every single time they drop their children off to school, with gun violence being so prevalent. But how did you learn about this?
Right, so just a couple months ago, I did an investigation we called Safer Schools, and I went inside Fulton County schools, and they showed me some technology they were using. For that investigation, I also talked with a national school safety security expert who, has testified at Sandy Hook and Parkland, so he's very tuned in to what's going on. And he actually tipped me off and said, if you're interested in covering schools and school safety and technology, you really need to look at Evolve. It might not be all it's cracked up to be.
When I was watching it, I was also thinking about red light cameras, because when they were being seen in, being installed in communities, there was this, it's 100% going to make your community safer, having these cameras in the communities. And then we later learn, I've done investigations about them in the past, that they don't live up to its promise. I kind of feel like this is another example maybe of someone over-promising and maybe giving folks, some very vulnerable folks that are trying to do their best to make places safer, a false sense of security.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's how I feel too. And at the end of the day, and something that they kept telling us was, well, look how many weapons we did detect, and well, look at all the guns that we did detect. And yes, that's great. We want our schools to be as safe as possible, but I think the problem here is just the big promises they made at the beginning, and they didn't deliver on that. I think if off the bat they said, yeah, this doesn't detect everything, but it does a pretty good job, that would be one thing. But to have the CEO going on these networks and saying, we detect any kind of, weapon, and then later to find out, they missed all of these knives. I think these are just over promises, and it is really scary when you're a parent and you're dropping your kid off at school. You want to make sure any of the technology they're investing in, you want to make sure that it's working.
Yeah, I mean, and who can fault the schools for trying to do something? But, as an investigative reporter, anytime I think someone like this CEO says it 100%, as an investigative reporter, alarm bells go off, and you're like, oh, 100%. Let's test that.
Right, especially when it comes to AI and this type of technology, that there's so much unknown at this point.
So you used to work in Utica. Tell me about that relationship and how you were able to get the information from that school district and apply it to your school.
Right.
To this story, excuse me.
Right. So a lot of people know TV reporters, we move around a lot. We start in small markets and we kind of work our way up. So my first job was actually in Utica, New York. So I still follow a lot of the news out of Utica, New York, just like I still follow some of the news out of Cleveland, Ohio, where I also worked. And so when I saw that there was this stabbing there, one that's very unusual, because Utica is a small town, you don't really hear about stuff like that. But then I saw that they had the Evolve system in place. So I just thought, wow, I really need to include this in the story. It also helped, since I worked there, I had those connections. I was able to get in touch with that superintendent who, is wrapped up in some litigation right now regarding all of this. So he couldn't talk on camera, but he was able to direct me to that that school board meeting that we used in the piece. And obviously, everyone just watched that really alarming video where a student walked through an Evolve weapons detection system, got a knife through, and this stabbing took place.
So disturbing when you see that video. Evolve did give you someone to interview, but it was someone that I believe I heard multiple times saying, I can't answer, or I don't feel comfortable answering a question specifically commenting on technology.
Right.
That must have been frustrating to get someone from Evolve but not be able to answer what sounds like a lot of your questions.
Right, right. And you know, whenever we're doing these stories, we really want to make sure we tell both sides. That's a really important part of our job. And so I was happy that Evolve gave me someone. That's a lot better than just saying no comment. But she was the director of education, and yes, as you can tell, the technology aspect of this was just not her wheelhouse. And you know, when it came to the Atlanta Public Schools deal and negotiation, you know, she said she wasn't a part of that. So yeah, it was tough because a lot of my questions she just couldn't answer. Even though she tried, she just wasn't the right spokesperson, I think, for that interview.
And where do things stand right now in DeKalb County?
So DeKalb County schools just approved a 4-year deal with Evolve, and I believe they're going to start being installed in the fall. So when students return after the summer, they'll probably have those installed.
Bottom line, nothing is 100% foolproof.
Absolutely.
Rachel, thank you so much for this investigation and taking us behind the scenes. We will see you next time on another Atlanta News First Behind the Scenes investigation.